Have you ever looked at your bank account, maybe right after payday, and felt a strange, heavy knot in your stomach? You worked hard for 2 weeks, giving up your time, your energy, maybe even your peace of mind. The money finally hits your account, and yet, somehow, you already know it's going to vanish before the month is over. You pay your rent, your car loan, your student loans, the credit card minimums, the subscriptions you forgot to cancel. And suddenly, that wealth you thought you earned feels like water slipping through your fingers. You did everything right. You went to school, you got the job, you put in the hours, but you still feel like you are constantly running on a treadmill just to stay in the exact same place. Welcome back to Grow with Tony. I am your host, Tony, and today we are going to talk about the biggest illusion you interact with every single day. I am going to show you the invisible architecture of your life. We are talking about money. Quick note before we dive in. This is educational content, not financial advice. Always do your own research. Now, listen to me closely. I am not going to give you the textbook definition of money. I am not going to sit here and give you the same tired budgeting advice about skipping your morning coffee so you can save $4 a day. No, today, I want to talk about how the machine actually works. Because here is a hard, bitter truth I had to swallow a few years ago. You and I have been playing a high-stakes life-or-death game our entire lives, and nobody ever bothered to hand us the rulebook. We go to school for decades. We learn about the mitochondria being the powerhouse of the cell. We learn advanced calculus, but we never take a single class on how the global financial system actually operates. Why? Because the structural design is rarely discussed. Ignorance is not bliss. In this system, ignorance is a profit margin for someone else. Let's start with a very simple question. I want you to really think about this. What is money? If I asked you right now on the street, you might tell me it's a piece of paper, a metal coin, or maybe just a series of numbers on a screen in your banking app. You might remember an economics class and say it's a medium of exchange, a unit of account, or a store of value. And sure, technically, historically, you're right. But fundamentally, deeply, if you stop there, you are missing the magic trick. Money is not wealth. Money is just trust. It is a collective hallucination. It is a mass psychological agreement that a rectangular piece of green paper, or a digital zero sitting on a server somewhere, has value. Think about fiat currencies like the US dollar, the euro, or the yen. They have absolutely zero intrinsic worth. You cannot eat a dollar bill if you are starving. You cannot build a shelter out of a $100 bill to keep you warm in the winter. Its entire existence and value depend 100% on public confidence. When you get your paycheck on a Friday, you are not actually receiving wealth, you are receiving a claim on wealth, a promise. You are receiving a ticket that says society owes you a certain amount of goods or services. And if tomorrow, every single person on earth woke up and collectively decided that those numbers, those pieces of paper meant absolutely nothing, the value would evaporate instantly. The government couldn't stop it. The military couldn't stop it. The money system only works because we all collectively agree to play along. To really understand how crazy this is, we have to go back in time. Centuries ago, a very small, very observant group of people realized something incredibly powerful. Here's a popular historical analogy about goldsmiths. Historians debate the exact details, but the principle illustrates how the system evolved. Back in the day, real money was gold and silver. But carrying heavy bags of gold was dangerous and inconvenient. So, people started leaving their gold with local goldsmiths who had massive secure vaults. In exchange for the goldsmith would give the person a paper receipt. After a while, people realized it was way easier to just trade the paper receipts to buy things rather than going back to the vault to get the heavy gold. The paper became the money. But then, the goldsmiths noticed something fascinating. They noticed that almost no one ever came to claim their physical gold all at the same time. The gold just sat there, gathering dust in the vault. So, a clever goldsmith had a thought, if no one is coming to get the gold, what is stopping me from writing out paper receipts for gold that doesn't actually exist and lending those fake receipts out and charging interest on them? The answer was nothing. They started printing receipts for gold they didn't have, they created money out of thin air, loaned it out, and collected real wealth, the interest, in return. My friends, that was the birth of the modern banking system. They realized that if they could control that agreement, if they could control that trust, they could build massive, intimidating institutions. They built central banks. They made money seem terrifyingly complex, mystical, and mathematical. They dressed it up in jargon that the average person couldn't possibly understand. And honestly, it worked perfectly. Most of us never question what money is. We just trade our precious limited time on Earth to get it. And when we don't have enough of it, what do? We blame ourselves. We say we are bad with money. We say we are lazy. That self-blame is not an accident. It's a byproduct of the system's design. Let me pull back the curtain on how this actual system operates today, because this is where the story gets a little terrifying. Let's say you take $1,000 of your hard-earned cash and deposit it into your local bank. You probably imagine that your money goes into a heavy steel vault, sitting in a little box with your name on it, safely waiting for you to come back and get it, right? Wrong. The exact moment you hand that money over, it is no longer yours. The bank turns around and loans it out to someone else. This is called fractional reserve banking. The bank is only legally required to hold a tiny, microscopic fraction of your deposit in reserve, sometimes as low as 0%. But here's the part that will make your brain hurt. The bank doesn't just lend out your exact physical dollars. Let's say someone comes in for a mortgage. The bank doesn't go to the vault, grab $100,000 and hand it to them in a briefcase. They literally sit at a keyboard, open the person's account, and type in a 1 followed by 5 zeros. They press enter, and boom. Money is created out of thin air. Every single dollar in the economic system, beyond the physical cash printed by the government, is a debt that someone owes to a bank. Think about the gravity of that statement. Your salary, your savings, the money you use to buy groceries for your family, a massive portion of it only exists because someone, somewhere, is paying interest on a loan. Money is debt, and debt is money. If everyone in the world magically paid off all their debts tomorrow, the money supply would virtually disappear. The economy would collapse. Because of this specific design, the system is exactly like a shark. It has to keep swimming forward, or it dies. It requires perpetual, endless growth. Why? Because of interest. Let me break down the math. If a central bank creates $1 million by issuing a loan at 5% interest, they have injected exactly $1 million into the economy. But by doing so, they have created a legal demand for $1,050,000 to eventually be paid back. Now, in reality, money circulates and velocity matters, but the core principle remains. The system requires growth to service debt. Do you see the problem? Where does that extra $50,000 come from? It wasn't created in the original loan. The money to pay the interest literally does not exist in the system yet. The only way for society to find that extra $50,000 to pay the interest is, you guessed it, more loans, more debt. It is a hamster wheel that has to spin faster and faster just to stay upright. The debt bubble has to keep expanding. It is not a glitch. It is the operating system itself. And because they constantly have to pump more money into the system to keep it alive, we face another invisible enemy, inflation. When you print more of something, its value goes down. It's basic supply and demand. Your grandparents could buy a house for the price of a modern used car. A hamburger used to cost 15 cents. The value of the house and the hamburger didn't go up. The value of the dollar went down. Inflation is a hidden tax. It is a thief in the night that steals your purchasing power while you sleep. If you leave your money sitting in a savings account earning 1% while inflation is at 5%, you are literally losing wealth every single day. The system penalizes you for saving cash. The structural design of this system intersects perfectly with human psychology. It relies on the fact that most human beings would rather feel rich while living in a cage of debt than feel poor while being totally free. They engineered an entire culture where being in debt is just considered a normal standard part of being an adult. Look around you. The statistics are absolutely terrifying. The average household carries massive, crippling amounts of debt. Student loans, car loans, personal loans, credit cards. And it's not because people are inherently foolish. It's because the system has built-in psychological hooks that target our deepest biological desires. Money hasn't been just about survival for a long time. It is about status. It is about signaling to the tribe that you have made it, that you are successful, that you are worthy of love and respect. And the system has ensured that the easiest, fastest way to signal your success is by consuming expensive things. The luxury SUV, the massive house with empty rooms, the designer clothes, the phone that costs more than a month's rent. I want you to realize something. You were not born wanting these things with such a burning intensity. When you were a child, A cardboard box was a spaceship. You were trained to want these things. You were conditioned by thousands of meticulously crafted advertisements, by social media influencers living fake lives, by the subtle, unspoken judgments of your peers and neighbors. And here is the most genius, the most clever part of it all. The system graciously, with a warm smile, allows you to have all of these things before you can actually afford them. They hand you a piece of plastic and say, "Take it now, pay later." That is what consumer debt truly is. Debt is time travel. It is time travel for consumption. You get to bring the feeling of being rich, that quick hit of dopamine, into your present day. But you pay for it by sacrificing your future. You mortgage the next 10, 20, or 30 years of your life for a momentary feeling of superiority today. You are literally trading the hours of your future life, your future energy, your future peace, your future stress, for heated leather seats and a brand logo. And while you are busy paying off your past consumption, you are trapped. You can't afford to take a risk. You can't quit that toxic job that drains your soul every Monday morning. You can't start that business you've been dreaming about since you were 20. You can't take 6 months off to travel or spend time with your kids. You are chained to your paycheck. But the chains aren't made of iron, they are made of comfort. The structural design thrives on this. A population heavily burdened by debt is predictable, docile, and easily manageable. People in debt don't strike. People in debt don't rebel. People in debt show up to work on time and keep their heads down. The system designs credit cards with confusing minimum payments, hidden overdraft fees, and sky-high interest rates. It is complicated on purpose, because when you fail in a complicated system, you point the finger at yourself. You say, "I'm just not good at math. I should have read the fine print." And when you are busy blaming yourself, feeling ashamed and guilty, you never stop to look up and question the game itself. But Tony, you might be asking right now, if the system design is this challenging, if the deck is this stacked against us, how does anyone win? How do the wealthy do it? Are they just lucky? I'm so glad you asked. Because the wealthy understand exactly what money is, and they use the exact same tools completely differently. They don't use debt to buy feelings. They don't use debt to buy status. They use debt as a lever. Let me paint a picture for you. When the average person borrows money, they borrow it to consume. You buy a new car. The second you drive it off the dealer's lot, it loses 20% of its value. Over the next 5 years, you pay back the loan plus interest, while the car continues to depreciate into a piece of scrap metal. Your debt goes up, but your true assets go down. You bought a liability disguised as an asset. When a truly wealthy person borrows money, they borrow to invest. They borrow money to buy an apartment building. They borrow to start a cash-flowing business. They borrow to buy assets that produce more money. Yes, their debt goes up, sometimes by millions of dollars, but their assets go up faster. The apartment building pays the monthly rent. That rent covers the bank loan, covers the maintenance, and puts passive cash flow straight into their pocket. And the magic trick here, the final boss of the financial game, the tax code. The interest they pay on that business loan is often tax deductible. So while you are paying 20% credit card interest with the money you have left over, after the government already took 30% of your paycheck, the wealthy are using a tax advantage to build their empire with the bank's money. It is the exact same tool. Credit, debt. But when you use it to buy a TV, it enslaves you. When they use it to buy real estate, it enriches them. This brings us to the ultimate wealth-building force, compound interest. You've probably heard it called the eighth wonder of the world. But here is the brutal truth they don't teach you. Compound interest is a relentless, unstoppable force. But for the average person, it is currently working against you. On your debt, it is a snowball rolling down a hill, getting bigger and heavier, crushing you. The wealthy have compound interest working for them on their investments. It is a snowball rolling down a hill, gathering more snow, building a mountain of wealth. But to get it working for you, you need seed money. You need capital to invest. And the consumer system is perfectly designed to make sure you are so busy paying for your lifestyle, so busy servicing your debts, that you never have enough seed money left over to plant your own financial tree. The math was never meant to be in your favor. So where does this leave us? We've covered a lot of heavy ground today. Before we wrap up this episode, let's take a deep breath and summarize the core lessons we've just unpacked, so you can take this with you into your daily life. First, we learned that money is not real wealth. It is simply trust, a collective hallucination, and a claim on value. Second, the money in our economy is actually created out of thin air, as debt by banks, through fractional reserve banking. Money equals debt. Third, because of interest, the entire financial system requires perpetual debt and constant growth just to survive, which leads to inflation, the hidden tax that slowly drains the value of your savings. Fourth, we are aggressively manipulated by a culture of status to use consumer debt as a way to time travel our consumption. We buy things we can't afford, to impress people we don't even really care about, which ultimately traps us in jobs we hate just to keep up the illusion. And finally, we learned the master key. Ordinary people use debt to buy liabilities and become trapped, while the wealthy use debt to acquire cash-flowing assets and become free. Knowing how this massive, invisible machine works doesn't magically erase your mortgage overnight. It doesn't instantly deposit $1 million into your bank account, but it does something infinitely more valuable. It gives you permission to forgive yourself. It gives you permission to stop blaming yourself. You are not stupid. You are not a failure. You were just playing a complex game while blindfolded. But you are not blindfolded anymore. Now that you understand the structural design, you can make a different choice. You don't have to play the status game. You can choose to step off the hedonic treadmill. You can choose to live below your means, not as a punishment, not because you are broke, but as an act of rebellion. You can decide that having a massive emergency fund and the freedom to sleep peacefully at night is a much better flex than wearing a designer watch. You may not be able to dismantle the entire global banking system on your own, but you absolutely, 100%, can opt out of participating in it the way they want you to. You can stop trading your future for a hit of dopamine today. You can start buying assets instead of liabilities. You can build a life where money is simply a tool that serves you, instead of a cruel master that controls you. And my friend, when you make that shift in your mind, that changes absolutely everything. Thank you so much for spending your most valuable asset, your time, with me today. I truly hope this episode shifted your perspective and woke something up inside of you. If you got value out of this, if it made you see the world a little differently, please hit that like button right now. It really helps the show. Make sure you subscribe and ring that bell icon so you never miss an episode. And listen, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment down below right now and let me know. What topic do you want me to expose next? What invisible system should we break down in the next episode? Let me know. The more you understand the hidden forces shaping your life, the better equipped you are to build the life you actually want. I'm Tony. This is Grow with Tony. I will see you in the next episode. Keep growing.